By the time I realized this wasn't a phase, it already had structure. Not romance, not fantasy. Structure. It had timing. It had rules. It had built-in excuses. And the scariest part? It fit into my life without anyone noticing. Tuesday morning. Same kitchen, same cereal bowls, same low hum of the dishwasher finishing its cycle. The sun came in through the blinds in pale stripes that made everything look softer than it was. My phone sat on the counter near the fruit bowl, face down, not as a gesture of respect, as camouflage. I poured coffee, helped tie a shoe, signed a permission slip, kissed foreheads, smiled like I always did. But underneath all of it, something in my chest was coiled, waiting. When the front door shut after school drop-off, the house went quiet in that sudden way that almost rings in your ears. I stood in the kitchen alone, and I didn't even pretend. I flipped the phone over. The screen lit up. Nothing new. No notification, no missed call, no reason. Still, my thumb pulled down. Refresh. Again. I told myself I was just clearing alerts, just checking headlines, just making sure I hadn't missed anything important. But I knew. I wasn't looking for information. I was looking for interruption, for something that would break the flatness of my own day. It started to organize me. That's the part I don't like admitting. I began structuring time around when it was safe, when the house was empty, when my husband was in the shower, when laundry was running, when the kids were in the backyard. I didn't think of it as sneaking. I thought of it as efficiency. If I was going to check, I might as well do it when no one would notice. That logic felt responsible. That's how it burrowed deeper. The bathroom became less of a hiding place and more of a checkpoint. Door closed, fan on, light bright enough to look normal from the crack at the bottom. I would sit on the edge of the tub and unlock my phone with this strange, calm focus, like I was clocking in for a shift. Scroll, pause, delete, clear history, double-check previews were off. I didn't even realize when deletion became part of the ritual. At first, it was accidental. Then it was preventative. Then it was automatic. If nothing stays, nothing can be found. That thought settled in quietly and made itself comfortable. One afternoon, I was on the couch when I heard the garage door open earlier than expected. My heart didn't just jump, it slammed. My husband had forgotten something. I heard his footsteps in the kitchen. I didn't scramble, I adjusted. I angled the screen slightly toward my thigh, lowered the brightness with one swipe, shifted my body like I was stretching. By the time he walked into the living room, I looked bored, casual. He smiled. "Hey, forgot my charger." "Of course you did," I said lightly. He bent down, kissed the top of my head, and left again. The whole exchange took less than 30 seconds, but my body stayed tense for 5 full minutes afterward. That's when I realized something had changed. I wasn't just enjoying privacy, I was managing risk. At dinner, I started doing something new. I would leave my phone in the other room, not because I wanted distance, because I wanted to prove to myself I could. I'd sit at the table, nodding while my husband talked about work, listening to the kids argue about who got more mashed potatoes, and I would feel my brain tugging toward the hallway like a magnet. Not because I needed it, because I hated not knowing. Was there something new? Had I missed it? Had something happened without me? The anxiety surprised me. I didn't like that I couldn't sit through one meal without wondering. So sometimes I'd excuse myself. Forgot to switch the laundry. Left the oven on. Be right back. I'd walk down the hallway, grab the phone, glance quickly. Usually nothing, but the relief from checking, even when there was nothing, was real. That's when I started to see it clearly. It wasn't about what was on the screen anymore. It was about the act of checking. My husband started studying me in small ways. Not suspicious, just attentive. One night in bed, he asked, "Are we okay?" No accusation, no drama, just a question. "Of course we are," I said, maybe too quickly. "You just seem somewhere else lately." There it was again, somewhere else. I forced a soft laugh. "I'm juggling a lot, it's just life." He nodded slowly, like he wanted to believe me. "Okay," he said. But he didn't roll toward me. He rolled onto his back and stared at the ceiling, and I lay there feeling irritated, not at him, at the interruption, at the way concern felt like pressure. That irritation scared me more than anything. The kids noticed in subtler ways this time, not blunt truth, small comments. "Mom, I said it twice. Are you listening? Why are you mad?" I wasn't mad, I was distracted. But distraction looks a lot like anger when you're a child. One afternoon, my youngest stood next to me at the counter while I wiped it down too hard, too fast. "Are you in trouble?" she asked. I blinked at her. "What? You look like you're in trouble." I laughed, but it stuck in my throat. "No, baby, I'm just cleaning." She watched me another second like she wasn't convinced. Then she walked away, and I scrubbed harder. The act of checking got stranger. I'd look at the phone even when it hadn't buzzed, even when it was silent. I'd be folding laundry and suddenly feel this phantom vibration in my hand. I'd check, nothing. Still, the tension would drop after I looked, like my body had completed a circuit. I started refreshing blank screens, pulling down just to see movement. Anything new, anything different. Most of the time there wasn't, and instead of that making it easier to stop, it made me more restless, because if nothing was happening, that meant I needed to check again later, and later, and later. One night, I caught my reflection in the black screen before unlocking it. The room was dim, the lamp was off, only a thin slice of light from the hallway came in under the door. I stared at myself for a second longer than usual. There was something hollow there. Not dramatic, not tragic, just a woman alone in a quiet room waiting for something that might not even come. I almost put the phone down. Almost. Instead, I unlocked it. Here's the truth I didn't say out loud. It was getting less satisfying. The first weeks had a charge. Now it felt like maintenance, like checking a slot machine that rarely paid out but still demanded attention. But I couldn't stop checking, because what if the one time I didn't was the time something happened? That's how it hooks you, not with pleasure, with possibility. The escalation wasn't explosive, it was logistical. I started running errands alone more often, volunteering for grocery trips, offering to pick up prescriptions, taking the long way home, sitting in the car in the driveway for a few extra minutes before going inside, just to check, just to feel the quiet bubble around me, just to not be needed. One evening, I pulled into the driveway and didn't get out right away. The house lights were on. Through the front window, I could see my husband helping with homework at the table. I sat in the car, engine off, phone in my lap. For a second, I felt split. Inside that house was the life I built. In my hand was the life I was feeding. Neither of them looked dramatic. Neither of them looked disaster. But I knew something. I was starting to prefer the car, the silence, the anticipation, over walking through that door and being fully present. And that realization didn't feel romantic. It felt like erosion, slow, quiet, dangerous. When I finally walked inside, my husband looked up and smiled. "Hey, everything okay?" "Yeah," I said, hanging my keys up. "Just traffic." Another small lie, another smooth one. And as I set my phone on the counter, face down, as habit, I understood something I hadn't wanted to admit. This wasn't a break anymore. It wasn't stress relief. It wasn't harmless. It was a system, a pattern I'd built around my family without them knowing. And systems don't collapse overnight. They run, efficiently, until something breaks them. In episode 1, I chose the screen over my husband's hand. In episode 2, I started choosing it before he even reached for me. And once you start organizing your life around something secret, you don't just risk being caught, you risk not wanting to stop.